And welcome back to Blue Shirts Buzz, where we talk everything New York Rangers. I'm your host, Matt Piscazzi, with my co-host, John Horton. Definitely check us out on Twitter at BlueBuzz26. And we got some interesting stuff to cover today, so we'll roll right into this one. How you doing, dude?
I am doing as good as anyone could expect a New York Rangers fan to be. A passionate, analytical
Fair.
podcast co-host of a New York Ranger team that is most likely indefinitely
Cooked.
cooked and also needs a retool a year before than we expected, or at least wanted. But how are you
Mm.
feeling?
Pretty good, man. I mean, we got the holidays coming up. All things considered, they certainly could be better in Rangerstown. But I mean, at least the Stars one was kind of promising. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find the little things at this point because they're really not giving us a lot to go off of. And even the performance in the Canes game, like, God, we lost that game. Obviously, we're recording a few hours after that game, actually, here a couple days before Christmas here, and it's disappointing. I think that their goalie played really well. I think we certainly could have, like, the 3-1 scoreline, I don't think tells the story because obviously they got an empty netter at the end there. So, all things considered, it certainly could be worse. But, the main talking point of this episode here that we'll get into in a little bit is certainly something that has me bothered. So, before we roll into that, just cover the first time scorer here as if
Absolutely.
either of us called one correctly because it's just every week it's like the same. Especially with this team, just because we have scored 2 goals over the last 3 games. So really lovely stuff. Excuse me, that was terrible math. But my point here is just the offense hasn't really been firing this year at all. So in the 2-0 loss to the Predators, obviously no one on our team scored, so neither of us got that one.
Yeah.
3-1 win over the Stars. I believe it was Riley Smith scored the first goal. He scored that shorty. Neither one of us had that one. And in the 3-1 loss to the Canes, oh my God, I'm totally blank. VC. It was VC
Yeah.
right in the beginning
Definitely.
of the game, which was great, but nobody had that on their bingo card.
No.
So currently, the score is still John 2, me 1.
Jesus, 3 was this 3, 4
I
weeks in a
think
row?
this has got to be wait 1, 2, 3, 3 weeks, 3 weeks in a row. Yeah.
Jesus. Hey, I
All
like
right, we
my
gotta
lead.
hit it at one
I'm
point.
happy.
It's a tight one. Don't get too excited over there.
Yeah, it's a tight
But,
race. It's a tight race.
to then to roll us into the main topic here, and this is really, like I said, something that frustrated me, just the return and kind of how everything went down. But Kaapo Kakko was traded to the Seattle Kraken. We got back 27-year-old defenseman Will Borgen, as well as a third-round pick and a sixth-round pick in the upcoming draft. I know you're really passionate about this one, so I'll just get my thoughts out really quickly and kind of let you roll on this one. I, at least the saga's over, right? The Kakko saga's over. I'll say that. I don't think it was a shrewd piece of business. I think if you were going to move him, I would have much rather just moved him in the offseason. I don't really understand the point of like getting it to this point where the relationship, the bridge was burnt. He had made the comments to the media about kind of being fed up. And also he was scratched when it's like he was playing better than half the team. So again, we had talked about that last week, but I certainly understand his frustrations. And like once he came out and made those comments, the bridge was kind of burned. Like that was it. He got scratched after that. And then obviously the trade happened. So at the very least, the saga is over for him in New York. I think the Kraken obviously win that trade. He has a lot more upside, but I'm not really mad about the return. I think that Will Borgen quietly will be a very good defensive presence. I mean, he's big, 6'3", but he skates well. He handles himself pretty well, and I think he's an underrated defensive presence. I think he's going to give some grit and toughness as well that we obviously lost in getting rid of Truba. So there's certainly solid upside there for us. I just really wish that like I said, if we were gonna move Kakko, we should have just moved him in the offseason and gotten a little more value out of him. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about a number 2 overall pick getting traded. What are we here? 6 years into his career for a serviceable bottom 4 defenseman with potential second pair upside and 2 mediocre picks in a draft class that isn't very highly touted. Like it's just not exciting, and it's just disappointing that that's how it all went down. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I'm glad we at least got some type of player in
Yeah. Well,
return.
we need the help on defense, so it's like it could have
Yeah.
been worse.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely could have been a lot worse. I was hoping for at least maybe a second round pick, but seeing with how bad Kakko plays in the long stretches, I guess the Kraken were like, no, like this is what we're offering, or whoever Drew was on the phone with. What I do find
Mm.
interesting that Drew was able to pull off with this trade is Will Borgen's contract is very similar to Kakko's. I think he makes about $200,000 more in AAV than Kakko. So kind of interesting swap. Like I think Kaku's 2.4 million, and I think Borgen's 2.7 or something like that.
Yeah, he's 2.7. So it's
Okay,
close.
so it's
Yeah.
close. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, it
Yeah,
worked out nicely for cap reasons.
yeah, for gap reasons exactly, and who knows if he'll stay. Like the defense needs to be fixed entirely. I think this offseason, which we'll get into many episodes from now, and with what
Oh,
happens,
plenty of stuff to cover.
yeah, Drury's gonna have to get a big defensive player, and not big as in like size. Like we need another Fox on this team, or somebody close to it. Like we just need another skilled defenseman who actually plays defense and isn't just like a bumbling idiot. We definitely need to ship Ryan Lindgren, which I don't know when that'll happen. But yeah, I agree with your point with Kakko. Like this should have been done in the offseason. Same thing with Truba. I think a big mistake that Drury made that we're seeing the ripple effects of now is he, I guess, kinda and maybe talking with Laviolette, maybe he came to they were like, "Alright, well, you know what? Like, we made it President's Trophy. We got all this we saw these records. Yeah, there's, some real issues that we're seeing, but let's just run it back." And
Mhm.
I kinda understand that sentiment, but now look what it cost. I mean, there's a lot of holes to fix. But yeah, so with Capo Caco, the book is finally closed. What a draft bust, my lord. I mean, I know the draft class in general, the 2019 draft class he was in is honestly probably one of the worst we've seen in the last 10 years. Like, it really, really was a bad draft class. And then I'm seeing articles and stuff where, like, um, Jeff Gordon wanted Kako, but there was, like, other people in the organization that wanted, Matt Boldy. That's such BS. That's definitely not true. That's just
No,
like
Kakko was so highly touted at
he
that
was
point, like, that
so highly
it was
touted.
literally I mean, I think the hope was, like, maybe the Devils will pick him because of the pedigree and just what he was coming to the table with, and honestly,
Yeah.
like, I think we would have rather Hughes, but, the Devils
Oh,
made the
yeah.
right pick there, but that's the thing, like, when you're hoping that they take Kakko so that we can end up with Hughes, or the fact that Kakko's in the mix up there, like, he obviously was going to be the pick there. I did yeah, like, you see those articles come out, it's one of those hindsight, like, let's dramatize
Yeah.
make the situation more dramatic, make it
Yes.
seem like kinda there was more to the story when I really don't think that was there.
No, and it's such a big swing and a miss and such a poor return on
Mhm.
a draft pick. I mean, we joke about it all the time, but you look back at that draft, the little analytics board comes up and they're like, "Oh, here's Kaapo Kakko from Finland. What are we looking at? So and so." And they're like, "Oh, here he is." I remember this, and you can look at it still on Google probably, but it was Kaapo Kakko, no need or room for development. It was like
Yeah.
basically like he's a full round player. Like you're looking great, blah blah blah, and he's just always been a step behind the NHL level in terms of
Mhm.
speed. I think. I mean, yeah, he gets scratched a lot and a lot of scapegoated stuff, which the most recent one was a little weird. I think maybe part of the reason he was scratched is because maybe a trade was coming, and then the Kako's comments kind of like expedited that more. So maybe that's why he was scratched. Like maybe
Mhm.
for like you don't want him to get injured if you're about to trade him, especially when he had that nasty injury last year. Um, but I think that it's nice to finally close the door on it, but like it's just hard not to feel that sting of like, wow, what a bust. Like what a like how hard is it in the NHL to get a top 3 draft pick and for it to just be someone so utterly mediocre. And it's only been 2 games, I know, but his 2 games in the Kraken, he's got 0 points. His second game he was a -2 and he actually had he had his ice time cut down to 12 minutes. So it's like Jesus Christ. I mean, in his career as a Ranger, minus the 2 games of course, he's
Mhm.
played 332 games, 61 goals, 70 assists for 131 points. Pretty bottom 6
Yeah.
type player, not
Yeah.
a complete no room for development player. Like, the
Mhm.
highest point total he had was 40. So from 2019 to 2024, his point totals go from 23 points, 17 points, 18 points, 40 points, back down to 19 points, and 14 points this year. Horrible. Sad, he's got good fundamentals, he's got good handling, but he's kinda slow, and his shot is just not good,
He could never
and he
put it
can't
all
finish.
together is something like, it's so interesting when you look at that, like, draft story of, like, no deficiencies, like, no room for improvement, but then since he's been in the NHL, there's always been an area of his game that needs improvement. I think
Yeah.
this year honestly, and towards the end of last year and a little bit of this year, I think he kind of was, like, starting to put it together. That's why I really feel like the Kraken won this one, because he could be on the precipice of kind of putting his whole game together, because we saw him slowly like improve and improved on defense, skating, pressure on the puck handling. His shot was always an issue though. Like there was always some part of his game, and then yeah, he got a couple snipes here and there, but it was like he was indecisive. He wasn't willing to make the pass when he needed to, or he would hesitate on the play and lose the puck. Like there was
Mhm.
always something about his game where he was just like almost like afraid to just be himself and just play. I think that obviously the organization didn't like do him any favors in the way he was treated, like constantly
Oh,
being the
yeah.
scapegoat. Like I
Yeah.
do feel for him, but like you said, it is kind of nice that the door's just closed. Like
No, it is, yeah, and I have
goodbye and good
nightmares
luck.
of
Like
yeah, pretty much. I also have nightmares of all those breakaways that he just got stuffed on, like, 9 out of 10 times he had a breakaway, I was like,
oh
"This
my
is not
god,
going
or all
in."
the
It
posts or
just
crossbars, and it's just like,
yeah.
buddy.
But a testament to the Rangers too, and some people were doing some more, stats since, Kakko was such a high draft pick traded.
Mm.
Rangers historically are just not good drafters, like, we just really have not had great forwards, goaltending, absolutely. Benoit Allaire's been fantastic with that, but I think, Chris Drury has we haven't really seen a lot of Chris Drury's draft picks kind of come to fruition yet. Gabe Pro looks really awesome, but I'm still afraid he's gonna get, like, snapped in half because he's so tiny.
He's definitely got
Um,
to beef up before he gets here.
yeah,
Yeah.
so in EJ Emery, we haven't really seen Drury's draft picks and his
I
team,
like that he went for a
how they
lot of
come.
size though and toughness. Like I think that
Yeah.
his specifically it was a couple years ago when we drafted. It was the year that we drafted Edstrom as well, I believe. Like we took Fortescue that year as well. I mean, there were 2 years there. I'm probably confusing a couple of drafts, but the general idea from him for a large portion of our specifically like our mid to later round picks was size and toughness, and it's something that this team severely lacks. I think the Tom Wilson situation obviously shed a light on that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Being years ago, being a totally different situation, but really just kind of shed a light on the fact that this team went years and years without a really tough presence,
Yeah, and that
especially after the captains, both captains that we had gotten rid of in Cali and McDonough, like those were heart and soul grit type guys. Those were Rangers teams that played with the motivation, the energy, the drive, the fire. I mean, every single night, and they were tough as well. It's not like we necessarily had big guys patrolling the ice at every minute, but those guys knew how to hold their own. They were tough. They weren't afraid to
yeah.
fight. They weren't afraid to do what they needed to do for the team. I'm sure as fans, a lot of you have seen that picture of the team in the plane the
Oh,
year that
yeah,
we made the cup
yeah.
run, and like I just see the memes of like the Wolverine laying in bed, just like looking at that picture, and it's
I love
just
that one.
really I really do miss the Rangers teams of those days, because it's like you look at the skill that we've had on this roster for the past few years, and the skill you could make the argument that it's better than some of those teams, just in terms of like raw
Absolutely.
skill, talent, potential, but the motivation, the drive, the effort, the courage, the heart, those things, the intangibles didn't really follow, and so it's been really disappointing. But yeah, I'd love if those big physical draft picks pan out. But like you said, we just haven't really had the opportunity. It's the NHL. It takes years for these guys to develop. So
Yes,
we'll
especially in the
see.
NHL compared to other leagues. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
you can
juxtaposition is
still
crazy.
yeah, you can still make the case that Laugh is still developing, which he's
Yeah,
been annoying me lately. But yeah,
yeah.
no,
Look,
to your
but like Jaden Daniels threw 5 touchdowns today. You know, I mean
yes,
that's crazy when
yes,
you like just obviously different sports and everything, but it's an interesting
rookie.
part
Yeah,
of the
no,
game here. Yeah.
I think it's the speed and the size, but yeah, that old Rangers team had so much grit and determination and like a real leadership room. And I think
Mhm.
last year's Rangers team, as an ode to the 23-24 Rangers had that as well. But once the problem with the leadership um, of this team that is now gone, basically, with
Mhm.
Trouba gone, and then Mika playing like an elderly man, and Kreider being upset, and which I understand why he is, but um, once they get like snapped in a certain way, or they get like kind of punched in the mouth to say, they
Yeah.
just kind of give up. They're like, all right, that's it. Like I
Yeah.
got beat. Whereas that 2013-14, that season ended in heartbreak. Like they didn't act like that. And like the only reason they lost to the Kings back then is they just were outskilled. Like that Kings roster was just better.
Yeah.
And Lundqvist could only, I think, the game that we lost, I think Lundqvist had like almost 60 saves. Like that was the
Yep.
craziest thing. And he only let in like what 3-4 goals.
And a
So
lot of those games came down to one or two plays, one or two loose pucks, a bounce here,
Yep.
a flashy play here. Like it was a very tight series, but like you said, that skill gap, also the experience that that Kings roster had on the playoffs, like they
Oh
were
yeah.
carrying a lot more into that series than we had, and so obviously I think there were a lot of moving parts there, but I did like what you had said there about just like the kind of the grit, the fight, the energy. I would love if we'd see more from this team and also more in an appropriate manner. I think the we'll get into our topic here in the second half of the episode. A significant misuse of physicality and grit,
Well
to
put.
put it lightly. Before we roll into that to kind of preview that, we'll just get a word from our lovely sponsors here. If you want to get
Yes,
us
sir.
rolling,
I will start us off with one of our lovely sponsors at DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Simply bet on something like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, new customers can bet just $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bets win. So pick up your phone, go to the App Store, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, and then use the lovely code THPN, code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bets win when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Thank you. Please and thank you.
and there is nothing quite like the experience of a live NHL game. The chill of the ice, the sound of a big hit or a slap shot. Every year I try to get to as many games as possible, and with game time this year, it'll be easier than ever. And already made my way to a couple games, so I wish we were playing better at those games, but that's a different point. Game Time also has tickets for all sorts of live sporting and music events, not just the NHL. And with Game Time picks, you can get the best deal in the shortest time. Right now, there's tons of deals on there for you, your family, and your friends to enjoy, so you should check them out. You can download the app and buy tickets right from your phone. Game Time has great features like panoramic seat views to make sure you love the seats before you buy them, the Game Time lowest price guarantee, or the ticket coverage that provides the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? It's game time, baby.
And you
Ding,
know what
ding.
else
Oh,
time it
boy.
is?
Time to talk about how Rempy is a
Miss
buffoon.
Yes, misuse of violence. But quickly to throw in also with defensemen talking about, do you know which defenseman right now, uh, at this lovely time of year is leading in the top 5 for plus minus?
Top 5 for plus minus. Well, I feel like you asking me this is like a trick question. Like, is it somebody like sneaky? I don't know.
Maybe
I
because of their age, but
I
someone we know and love, or loved, I should say.
McDonough?
Yeah. Isn't that
No shit, really?
crazy? Yeah, he's like a plus 19.
Dude, you know, I was actually thinking about him the other day because I have a signed stick from him that I
That got
that
traded the same year.
no, literally, it was like not even a week later. Remember we went to the alumni event? I
Yeah,
won that at auction, that and a pair of JT Miller gloves, which I
and
do
they're
still
like,
have.
"Get him out of here."
Dude, it wasn't even like 2 days later because that was
Yeah.
right before the trade deadline. Yeah,
Still
but no, I was thinking about him the other day. That's crazy. He's
yeah,
still playing solid. I mean, I love him. I will always love him. That is one of those trades you look back on. It's just like,
I hate that
oh,
trade.
I do. I definitely
That
don't
was
love
the
it.
he won 2 cups, and he's still playing well. Like, he's a very like, yeah, he's not
Yeah,
lighting it up
I
like he
wonder who
used
won
to.
that one, right?
Yeah,
But
but he's still serviceable.
nice segue into this though, because I wish had seen a little bit more proper use of violence and grit and everything. Obviously, we're talking about the Rempe situation. For those of you that did not see it, I don't even know if you want to watch it. It was an absolutely egregious hit. Rempe came up from behind on Miro Heiskanen, elbowed him, shoved him shoulder, whatever you want to call it, right on
Guillotined
the
him.
back of him. I mean, it was not only on his upper back, the back of his head, right his face, like right into the boards. I mean, it's obviously egregious and just an absolutely terrible hit. He did have a hearing via Zoom and was suspended 8 games for that hit. A lot of
And
people
fined
online are, oh yeah,
$80,000.
that's right. Well, which is like kind of a drop in the bucket for these guys. I mean, a younger
Yeah.
player like that sucks, and also like you see that number and it's just like, bro, like take care of your money here. But
Yeah.
he needs to take care of his game and clean up his game. I mean, 22 penalty minutes total in that game. We were shorthanded a number of times, leading to Igor making 21 shorthanded saves in that game, which is just absolutely incredible. But
Yep.
we don't need to be putting him in that situation, and it's a shame because I do see this argument online that Rempe, probably got more games, like maybe got targeted, but it sounds kind of silly. I mean, when you look at that hit, it's absolutely egregious. Like you could
Yeah.
make the argument that maybe he
Yeah.
got 1 or 2 extra games because of Rempe and the way he's sensationalized and the way that the league and officials are kind of, looking at him with those goggles and calling him for things that maybe they wouldn't be so willing to call other people for. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you watch that hit, it's absolutely egregious, and he 100% deserved to be suspended for that hit. At least 5, 6 games. Like I don't have an issue with this at all. I think most people watching that hit will look at it and say, like, yeah, okay, you
Yeah.
need to. And I mean, obviously, it doesn't even really hurt us that much. I mean, the thing is, it's not like he's playing a ton of minutes for us anyway.
No.
I think it is sad. I'd like to see him play a little bit more and get a little bit more opportunity, especially looking at where this team is at right now and how bleak the rest of the year looks. It's like, all right, then get some of these young guys some time. He's a guy the fans can get behind, get us some energy and
Yeah.
drive, and maybe get the guys on the bench going as well. But when he do boneheaded stuff like that, it's just really disappointing, and you just hate to see it. He's got to clean his game up if he's going to have a future here.
Yeah, and leading with the elbow like that, basically trying to guillotine Heiskanen, it's just bad. And you watch it when you watch it in slow motion, you could see there was ample time that Rempe made the decision that, okay, I'm going to raise my arm so I can
Mhm.
smash into the back of his head now. He has only played 22 NHL games. He's been ejected, I think, 4 times. It's like 18% of the games he's played. He tied a NHL record for most ejections through the first 20 something games, not a record that I think you want to tie. Um, because
No.
this hit, yeah, because this game misconduct and hearing happened within 18 months of his last game misconduct and hearing, he is now considered a repeat offender in this instance, which is why he got 8 games plus the fine. And you hear Laviolette all the time, the press conference, like, oh, we talked to him, like, blah, 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 this and that. Like, I'm not denying he doesn't, but
Mhm.
clearly it's not getting through to him. And I think maybe like and I understand the point too, like, oh, it's like he's 6'9", he's so big, blah, blah, this and that. But somebody made a good point too. I saw like he's the same height as Chara. And like Chara was a big burly player who, yeah, he had a lot of penalty infraction minutes too, but he wasn't like this.
He's also
He
right
wasn't
around the
taking
same
people's
height
head off.
as Edstrom, and,
Yeah.
Edstrom
Yeah.
is one of the better skaters in terms of, like, burst to speed. He positions himself well. I mean, it's not like he's taking a million penalties every game.
Exactly, yeah, so it's just he's very reckless, the way I watch him skate too, he looks very bumbly, like he seems out of control, I don't know
Mhm.
what that is, I think he's young, and he's a cool, energetic player, and for any New York Giants fans listening to, if you're still with us, um,
On the
uh,
record, hey, man.
yeah, sorry for those who got it dark, but, like, yeah, I mean, setting records in our 100th year season, but Matt Rempe to the Rangers is kinda like what Tommy DeVito was to the Giants, like, just this, like, kinda goofy, young, fun kid who's, like, not really all that skilled, but, like, gets the crowd going because of a
Mhm.
certain ability, and I think that's awesome, but then you see it kinda wears off, right? Like, the Tommy DeVito stuff wore off because you realize, yeah, he's an undrafted QB for a reason because he
Mhm.
sucks, and then, Rempe, it's like, yeah, he still brings that energy that we want, but he's going out there killing people, and then
Mhm.
he's giving the
At
team
what cost? Like,
yeah, and he's, like, giving the team a bad name, and it could get to a point where the Rangers front office is gonna be like, "Why would we re-sign you? Like, you're more trouble than you're worth, like, we've talked to you numerous times, you're not cleaning up your game." Like, it'd be one thing if he just boarded Heiskanen, and got, like, a 2-minute penalty, this and that, but, I mean, he calculated his raise the way he was gonna raise his elbow and basically
yeah,
kill the guy, like it's brutality, and it's not fun,
yeah.
and yeah, to your point, it's like, uh, it's just like it's the aggression in the wrong way because, like, yeah, we did win that game, um, but, we need other players to do that, other players who are not doing it, like, and I still every game that passes that I've watched, um which we'll do it in another episode because Puckpedia, the website, actually has a buyout calculator, which is really cool.
Oh,
I know it's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty
mhm.
close. And, Mika Zibanejad's buyout's actually not too bad.
Just
Not as bad as I thought. I really do
you
think
buffoon. No, okay.
yeah, and I don't know what your opinion is on it as well, but I really do think when this season's over, we have to do something with Mika. Like, we have to ship him in some capacity because he's just
Yeah.
bad.
I
He's
think he's
bad.
the prime suspect when you start talking about retooling this core and moving guys around. It's probably the first name and right at the top of the sheet. Unfortunately, I think that Kreider's name is up there as well because you get more return. I think that's the thing that
Yeah,
would really throw him up there. Like you would really be able to get him in kind of not an equal one for one, but you could get him in a swap for a top six guy. If we throw a
yeah,
prospect, they throw a bottom at 13th forward, 7th D man, a pick prospect. You know what I mean? You throw other little things on the package there that make it workable. We'll probably end up losing that deal anyway via an extra draft pick or an extra prospect or something, or even an extra roster player. But just because he has more value, we're definitely going to see his name float around more because
it
also
sucks.
how difficult Mika is to move. And I
Yeah.
mean, the one thing I guess you could say for Drury is that to this point he hasn't been shy about Goodrow or Trouba situations. So
Yeah, yeah,
obviously depends on where we are at the end of the year, but it's like, does he just start a fire and just go, and just start tearing through this locker room, going to Mika and basically just like, make
yeah.
that situation
Well,
uncomfortable? I mean,
yeah, to your point, like with the Kakko stuff too, I saw, an art like Kakko was talking to the media about
mm,
afterwards that, he made the he said, "Oh, I don't think my comments caused the trade." I think he was getting traded regardless, but I think his comments definitely sped it up, like,
see,
that's
I
obvious.
think his comments had more of an impact. Honestly, I don't know that we had I don't think he was scratched for trade purposes. Is I guess how I'd put that the best way. I think
That's
that he
fair.
was scratched genuinely because of the way this team was performing, and him being the scapegoat is something very common. It's a theme we've
Yeah,
seen numerous times. And we had talked about on the episode. I found it to be a perplexing decision when you consider the way that other guys on this team are playing. And then Lavi's
absolutely.
answer was, I've scratched some veteran guys this year. And it's like, who are you referring to? Because if you're
You
referring to
Riley
Riley
Smith
Smith
once, yeah.
and once, right? And we just added him in this offseason. It's not like he's the marquee guy. It's not like you scratched Amika or Crides. I mean, and again, we had talked about that the optics of those kinds of things, it's very difficult to make those decisions, but certainly understand Kakko's frustration. And I that's why I
Yeah,
think those comments kind of burned that bridge. It was like he's done being the scapegoat, done being the guy
right.
that's getting blamed, especially when he was playing better than a number of other guys on this team
He was.
in the days and games that led up to that trade. And just
No,
the
he
signals where
was.
this team is at right now.
No, it is. Yeah, he was, even though overall he still kind of blows,
Mhm.
which is just so sad, so frustrating. But yeah, that chapter is over. But yeah, I think like regardless though, like at the end of this season, Kako wasn't going to be re-signed like mutually.
Mhm.
So I think it was expedited. But like yeah, the story I saw was that Kako, he went to the sauna and then he came out and he saw he had multiple missed calls from Drury.
Oh, yeah, and that was the trade.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was the trade. So I think when it comes to Mika, the long story short with Mika, I think basically you just, you know, he is the GM. I think you have a sit down with him. You say, "Hey, listen, like we have made the decision that we want to move on from you. We understand that you have,
Mhm.
5 years left on your contract, which is crazy to think he has 5 years left. How horrible he's playing. And you have a full no move clause.
Mhm.
Um, you know, we want to do right by you. You've done right by us for so long, but we need to like this is just wish I could be a fly on the wall, but I feel like this would be the way to go about it. Be like, "Hey, listen, like, will you waive your no move clause, and we'll find, like, a good place
Mhm.
for you." And if Mika says no, then you probably do you don't wanna do the ugly thing of which does work to your point, like you said, like, "Okay, we're gonna bury you in the 4th
Yeah,
line
like,
or
blow
make
up
you
the
miserable."
situation, yeah.
Right? Because then other like, I understand. I still firmly stand by my point, which has been made evidently clear with stuff in the past, that MSG the thing that helps the Rangers is MSG and, like,
Mhm.
the aura around it. People always wanna come here. Henrik Lundqvist was
Yeah,
bought
it
out.
is a big
Brian
market.
Leetch
Yeah.
Brian Leetch was traded on his birthday, right? Like, eh, people still come to the Rangers. So
Yeah,
but I do agree, like, you don't just because we have that kinda, like, defense, I don't wanna have a history of just, like, kinda
true.
being terrible to
But
people,
also,
but
if the team has this negative energy around it just based on performance and the way that the organization has trended in the, year or 2, like, leading to that situation, it also just, I think, will leave kind of a sour taste in some of the players' mouth. And, if you're a free agent and you're looking at the Rangers and the situation in the organization and some of the discomfort that's gone through the locker room and the way that talent's not performing because of the lack of leadership and motivation and all those intangibles and things. And then you're comparing that to another team who may not be as competitive and may not have MSG, but they have a stable locker room with coaches who have a grasp on the handle and a handle on the players. Like there's an argument there that, you'd players maybe more willing to go to a situation like that, a smaller market team, as opposed to MSG, simply because of the locker room and the steadiness there and in the
That
organization
is fair.
throughout. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously conversations we will certainly get into in this offseason because and leading up to it, because I mean, what else is there to talk about with this team at a certain point unless they start turning it around here?
Yeah,
Speaking of, I think I'll segue us into our first time scorer bets for some games coming up here. Assuming we even
absolutely.
score, I mean, the Preds game, who had us losing that one 2-0?
Oh my god.
That was awful.
Awful.
Just so I guess we'll start with the Devils game. Devils game will be, and actually, by the time you guys are listening to this, you may have already seen the Devils game. We are
God.
recording this on the 22nd, a couple hours after we lost to the Canes. So
Thank
I'll
God I won't be
start with
able to
you.
watch that game because
Yeah, I was to say. I mean, it's also Christmas Eve. Like, it's cool that they threw some games out there, but a 1 p.m. game on a Monday, like, I kind of have stuff going. Like, who doesn't have stuff going on? I mean, I know it's Christmas
yeah.
Eve, but a lot of people are still working. A lot of people are like preparing for the holidays. Like, it's a really awkward time for a hockey game, quite frankly. But I
All
don't know.
right.
Who am I? I don't schedule games for the league. So, who do
Um,
you have to say? Who do you think is scoring first in that game for us? Assuming we score.
yeah, assuming Jesus.
I know, right?
I would like Laugh to snap out of his funk and prove me wrong again, but
Okay.
yeah, I'll go with Laugh. I'll go with
Okay.
Laugh.
Okay. I was already typing mine out here. I got a line mate of his in Artemi Panarin.
Nice.
I
Yeah,
know
he's
there
been
was a
slow since his injury. He's
that's
come
yeah. I
back.
was just gonna say there, and I wonder, he was such a kind of like they kept that decision really close to the chest, like game time decision. He did end up playing, and playing well, all things considered. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's technically a chance he may not play in that game, but I'm rolling with him. I'm thinking he's gonna want to get out there, stay healthy, stay fit, and get back to his very rapid scoring pace that we're used to seeing from him. So
Yeah.
then we do have quite a bit of a break there, 5 days in between until we do play the Lightning. And who do you think scoring first in that one?
Mm, hopefully Adam Fox. Yeah,
I know you've been looking for the Foxy goal all year.
I have.
Well, I know he did score one, but it was an empty netter. Like he's still yet to score a goal with the goalie in the net. Well, that
Yeah.
counted. He did score a goal that got called back.
Yeah.
Although that also might have been a deflection. I think it went off a couple sticks, so he may not have even ended up with credit for that one, but didn't matter in the end anyway. Let's see. I'm always tempted to be like Kreids. He's going to score at some point, right? But no, he's let me down this year.
I know it sucks. I hope it's the injuries and not the age, but I think
Well,
it's both.
also the aura around this team. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to ride Cooley here. The thing that is probably going to end up biting me is like he's might score, but maybe not first. Like that's happened to me and you a couple
Yeah.
times with him this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But a couple days after that, right before New Year's, we do have a game against the Panthers.
Yeah.
Do you
Last
think
game of
it's
the month.
scoring? Yeah, yep. Heard it
I
there.
honestly think we might get shut out in that game.
Well,
So it's
presuming we score.
uh let me think. Unless we get oh my lord. I'm gonna go with Kreider for that one.
Okay. Okay. I like it. I like where
I'm
your head's
just
at.
I'm just throwing names out there. Like it's just so hard.
I'm gonna go with a weird one here. But now do I though? Like, is Sam Carrick going to score a goal in this game? Like
Oh man, he's been a
he's
ghost.
that's
I
see,
mean,
like
he's a fourth line center. That's what you get. But
no, but I mean like I feel like half the time I'm thinking about these first time scorer things, I'm thinking like the big names, and then like look at who scored the one goal we had today. It was Jamie VC, like less than right at the start of the game. Like who had that on their bingo card, but they're not happening. I'm gonna go with Phil here. He's been skating with some energy. I think he's bound to kind of get through a few times here. So, well, like you said, we may get shut out on that one, but let's hope we don't.
oh yeah, yeah.
And
Jesus.
I think do you have anything? Any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to touch on before we hop out of this one? Get
Uh,
everybody ready for the holidays.
yeah, yeah. I think my only closing thought is, it takes a lot of chemistry to win championships too. And I think the unfortunate truth is this team's last 3, 4 year chemistry has exploded. It's dissolved after this explosion. It exploded and then it dissolved into nothing. With a lot of trades and a lot of just disappointment. And unfortunately, the retool is here. I hope Drury does as well. The two defensemen he added, okay. I mean, my
Yeah.
hope is this offseason he's gonna swing for some really, really good players. Two great forwards I know of that'll be free agents is Mikko Rantanen and Mitch Marner. I wouldn't want Mitch Marner because he's annoying. Mikko Rantanen would be insane, but he would probably want so
Cross
much
an arm
money.
and a leg. I don't see him leaving Colorado anyway, but
That too. And also I didn't look at the defensive free agents, but yeah, we just need to do something
well, yeah, I mean,
in the next couple of
I don't
years.
think we were thinking that this would be a big as
That
big a
too.
talking point as it is going to end up being, unfortunately.
Yeah, that too. I hope Kreider can stay forever and retire here.
Yep.
Um, but he really needs to pick it up or at least be more vocal in some way or the other because he's been letting me, you, and everybody else down, sadly. And I just hope for the best. It's not really fun watching Rangers hockey this year, unfortunately, but we do love and appreciate all the listeners. We are fans of this team, so we are here for the good and the bad. And if you don't want to be here for the bad, anyone listening, that's fine. Totally understand that. Like your life is important. You got a lot of stuff going on. Don't torture yourself, but do appreciate you tuning in if you are.
Yeah, and I mean, we're still tuning into these games. We're still locked in and trying to get on here and get our thoughts out in a nice, cohesive way, and not let the negative energy around this team consume us. But hopefully, we're on to greener pastures here. I think the one nice thing about everything that we've kind of touched on here is I do like the upside of Will Borgen. I I really like he's a guy who's easy to get behind, 6'3", solid defensive presence, underrated kind of guy. We could use it, and trying to grasp onto some positive things here. So hopefully he comes in here, can do a pretty good job for us. We could certainly use the minutes on defense. But yeah, overall, just trying to stay positive here with this team, and a positive way to get us out of this one, and hopefully get everybody excited for things that aren't Rangers hockey is the holiday season coming up here. Whether you do celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever it is, New Year coming up as well. Although we will most likely have an episode before the New Year. Um, just wish everybody a very happy holiday season here. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all that good stuff. I know we will. Sheesh, we will certainly be celebrating with our friends, family, all that good stuff. So, um, thank you all for all the love and support and sticking with us. If you, like John had said, if you want to come in for the good stuff, maybe not tune in as much for the bad stuff. Come back for the good stuff. However you're feeling, whatever is your prerogative, whatever you want to do. We will be here getting you guys all the content, getting all our thoughts out to you guys. We do still love getting on here and talking Rangers. Obviously, wish we had more positive stuff, but we are here nonetheless, and we will continue to be here week in and week out. And hopefully, you guys enjoy. Thank you all again for all the love and support and the listens and downloads and all that good stuff. And yeah, this last you will hear me on this one. Merry Christmas, and shoot over John to close us out of this one.
For the sake of everyone's sanity, I will not repeat myself and all the great things that Matt just said. So, yeah, thank you again, everyone. Happy holidays. Stay safe out there. Appreciate listening in every single week. Hit us up on the socials if you would like, and we will catch you on the next one and the new year.